Perhaps it began as a magic ritual performed by ancient priests, or a religious dance, or primitive sporting event. No one knows for certain, but over the centuries, it has evolved into an art form that has amazed and delighted millions. Today, it's an art practice throughout the world, the art we call juggling. One of the basic laws of physics was first discovered about 300 years ago by this man. He was Sir Isaac Newton. Legend has it that Newton was sitting under a tree one day when an apple hit him on top of the head. Well, that didn't upset Sir Isaac. In fact, he was overjoyed. A flash of great inspiration had just come into his mind. What Newton discovered that day was the law of gravity. In other words, what goes up must come down. Of course, Sir Isaac's law is still true today, but that hasn't kept a lot of people from trying to prove otherwise. Even mimes, like my partner Lorene and I, have been trying to convince our audience for years that gravity plays tricks on us.
But there's a big difference between illusion and reality. Pretending to defy gravity and really doing it. That's where juggling comes in. No one knows where or when juggling actually began. But the earliest record dates all the way back to ancient Egypt. 4,000 years ago, these images of women jugglers were recorded on the walls of a tomb. They display the basic styles of juggling that remain unchanged to this day. Whatever its mystical roots, through the ages, juggling has kept its special fascination. Juggling became so popular during the Renaissance that it was a common skill among entertainers. But it wasn't until the 19th century that juggling came into its own. The Chinese had already developed it into a specialized art form. These Oriental jugglers had a profound influence on European performers. There was a great explosion of new ideas, props, and routines. The novelty acts of the 1800s, with their many costumes and gimmicks, soon gave way to a greater emphasis on technical skill and perfection. The greatest of these technical jugglers was Enrico Rastelli. Though Rastelli's individual tricks have been duplicated by others, no one juggler has ever equaled his incredible range. Perhaps no one ever will.
A little later in the century, a new style emerged, one that emphasized control, grace, and precision. Its most memorable practitioner was Bobby May. Bobby May elevated this style of cabaret juggling to a high art. Vaudeville provided a stage for a different breed of jugglers, the comics. One of them was Homer Stack. Today in his 90s, Homer is probably the oldest living vaudevillian juggler. Retired from the stage, he has become a teacher, sharing his expertise with a new generation of jugglers.
Now put one in there. Now put one in there. Now put that one in the other way. See?
The other way.
Now throw the other way. Beautiful. 1, 2, 3. Now juggling takes three things. It takes timing, it takes muscular control, and it takes concentration. Throw. Up! Now, when I start people off juggling, I tell them, I want you to juggle just 20 minutes a day. Just 20 minutes. But 7 days a week. And any juggler that is good, that is a good juggler, has practiced that way. I think the greatest juggler today is Francis Brunn. Francis Brunn specialized in balancing and juggling a lot of things at the same time, which is a very difficult type of juggling. To do an act and do it properly, you must have that act down so you do it automatically. So you don't have to think what you're going to do. Because if you have to think what you're going to do, you have to hesitate, and then you miss.
Lottie Brunn certainly performs her act without hesitation. Her incredible skill has led her to be the only woman ever to perform solo in center ring. Technical perfection like this doesn't just happen. It takes years of practice and dedication.
I never felt that I could do a straight act. I never felt that I had the appearance or the personality to do a straight act. And I always did comedy. We'll take W.C. Fields. Now, W.C. Fields, I think, was a funny-looking man to start with. And W.C. Fields could never do a straight act, no matter how good he was, see? But he was marvelous doing a comedy act because it fitted his personality and it fitted with what he was doing.
Few people realize that in the early 1900s, long before his first screen appearance, W.C. Fields was known internationally as the world's greatest juggler. Fields never lost his first love. He worked juggling routines into his films wherever he could. These scenes are from a 1934 production, The Old-Fashioned Way.
Okay, here we go. Ready?
Robert Nelson has adapted many of Fields' techniques to his own stage character, the Butterfly Man.
Wait. Try it again. Part of the act. It's part of the act. I know
One of the ways that I utilize to make people laugh is to create attention and relax it by dropping a prop right in the middle of my act. And at that moment, the audience thinks they're seeing something. Hey, this guy missed in front of me. There is a natural embarrassment there that the performer is supposed to feel. You're totally vulnerable. And the true performer, in my opinion, is the performer who makes himself totally vulnerable to his audience.
Oh, great, a volunteer!
One thing I learned from W.C. Fields, a man who hated children, was how to utilize children in my act.
This right here is Sadiat. Sadiat and I have been working on this act for a long time. It's called Lying Down. Very good. Just relax, Sadiat. Don't worry about a thing. Just totally and completely relax. I'm just going to juggle a few things over you. Now, just totally relax. There's absolutely nothing. Now, Sadiat, just relax. Sadiat, don't worry, man. I've done this thousands of times. It's only worked twice. Now, Sadiat, don't worry. Sadiat, what I'm going to attempt to do here is I'm going to attempt to juggle 3 objects. Sadiat, I wasn't really going to do that, man. Oh, hey, Sadiat, ready? Yeah! Now, Sadiat, don't move. 'Cause what I'm going to attempt to do is kick my right leg right past your face. Here we go, Sadiat. Ah! Now, here we go, Sadiat. The same trick, only this time using both legs. See, ladies and gentlemen, I did a lot of birthday parties for kids when I was first starting out. Now I'm getting all these little suckers back, one by one.
I wanted to be able to get next to my audience. I wanted to break that fourth wall. I wanted to interact with them. I wanted to simply be one of them, but on stage.
Real good,
This
man.
fourth wall is already built when a performer walks onto a stage. It's that invisible force that separates the audience from the performer. You can break this wall when the audience is invited to participate in the show.
Okay, sir. Sir. Hola, hola. Un momento. On the count of 3. Tres. Tres. One. Uno. 2. 3. Go. Jesus.
The comic jugglers of today owe a lot to W.C. Fields. But the technical jugglers, the ones who go for the oohs and the ahs rather than the laughs, have had plenty of inspiration, too. The fabulous Bobby May. No other juggler has ever matched his precision or fluid style. During his 40-year career, Bobby May performed in over 35 countries and became known as the International Juggler. But Bobby May was more than a juggler. He was always ready to share his skills and knowledge with others. Now that he's gone, his former students are a living legacy. One of the most gifted is the world champion juggler, Dick Franco.
Bobby May, he was I would think, the best of the American ball jugglers. Now these days you've got some young guys coming up who are phenomenal with balls. But as far as performing jugglers who were on the stage at that time, Bobby May was far, far ahead of everybody. The technical skill that he did, the 5-ball routine that he did has never been repeated even until now. He introduced the off-tempo juggling, where it's very eccentric, where the shoulders are lifted and the arms are stretched out. He'd throw a right throw, and then the ball would shoot across to the left, and he'd catch it at the last second. With ball juggling, Bobby May helped me a great deal with the trick that he called from ear to ear. It's very difficult to do because you have to balance the ball at every point. He taught me a lot of ways you can get a little more advantage over the ball. In show business, as long as show business has been show business, the majority of the artists are very possessive with their knowledge, with their skills, with their ideas, with their secrets, a lot of secrets, especially with jugglers. And when I met Bobby May, I didn't find this true at all. I mean, he opened up to me, and he gave me everything he possibly could give me. I think really the biggest influence that Bobby May had on my professional career was not so much in teaching me technical ability or teaching me tricks. It was more, he taught me style and mental attitude, and more than anything else, he gave me confidence.
Although Franco has certainly mastered traditional juggling techniques, he is always experimenting with new props and routines.
I really like to juggle the ping pong balls. It's a nice change. People like it a lot more than regular juggling because you do it with your mouth. Now I'm juggling up in the air, but there's a lot of other ways you can juggle ping pong balls as well. Juggle them this way.
In the Bobby May tradition, Franco has been helping Anthony Gatto polish his act. Anthony is only 9 years old, but he is already a world-class juggler.
Here is Mr. Roulette.
Like Franco, Anthony enjoys experimenting with new and unusual props.
Throw the ball in his head, comes out the mouth.
As a basic boy, he's a very brilliant boy. As far as juggling goes, strictly phenomenal. When I practice with Anthony or when I juggle with Anthony, it's just like I'm juggling with my equal. We connect very, very well.
Anthony's skill and proficiency at such a young age have amazed audiences around the world. In a way, the spirit of Bobby May lives on, still thrilling and entertaining audiences.
In the past few years, juggling has moved far beyond the circuses, cabarets, and nightclubs. Leading this movement is a growing band of enthusiasts called the International Jugglers Association. Every year, hundreds of members gather in a selected town or city, bringing new routines and plenty of props. They transform main streets, shopping malls, and parking lots into stages, breaking down the traditional barriers between the entertainer and the audience. Unlike the jugglers in the old days, who jealously guarded their secrets, the International Jugglers Association is dedicated to teaching anyone who wants to learn.
I can teach the average kid to juggle in 15 to 20 minutes, and we do this in gym classes with scarves, with nylon scarves. And the scarves are pretty easy because they fall at half the speed of gravity. We find that the kids really get off on it. They love it. You know, it's a lot of fun. Take the third. Now we'll do it a little faster. You take this one, and that one, and this one, and keep juggling. You'll see, by the end of the hour, basically every kid here will know how to juggle.
Hey, you're getting pretty good at that.
Thank you. So are you.
You know, it seems like so many people are learning how to juggle. I bet America has more jugglers than anywhere else.
Nope.
Nope? What do you mean, nope?
That's not true.
That's not true.
Mm-mm. I know a place where half the population juggles.
Half the population, come on.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, where is it?
You think.
Well, it's... Oh, China. That's right. The Chinese have been juggling for thousands of years. It's amazing how they use those props. You know, the Chinese have never been surpassed when it comes to group juggling.
What are those? Giant yo-yos?
Those are diabolos. It's an ancient Chinese prop. It's really amazing how they work with those plates.
How can they do that without breaking any?
Ah, look. This juggler is an antipodist.
An antipodist?
Yeah, that means she only juggles with her feet.
They're really great. But I'm not talking about China.
You're not talking about China?
Nope.
A place where half the population juggles, you're not talking about China? Where are you talking about?
Tonga.
Tonga?
Tonga. Tonga is the last remaining island kingdom in the South Pacific. This tiny island has more jugglers per square mile than anywhere else on Earth. Not only that, all the jugglers are women. The tradition of juggling began here hundreds of years ago as a game played by the daughters of nobility. The girls would juggle around a large ceremonial bowl, chanting the names of eligible bachelors. The belief was the girl who juggled the longest had the best chance of marrying one of those noblemen. This elementary school teacher is said to be a direct descendant of the very first Tongan juggler. The Tongans use a technique called showering. One hand always throws while the other hand always catches. It's a very difficult way to juggle lots of objects. In fact, showering 7 objects is a record unsurpassed in the entire world. This sudden wave of excitement is due to a traveling American juggler who has just arrived at the school. the children are surprised to find that the juggler is a man, and they're really amazed by the objects he's juggling. Some of the props create more than just interest. But the headmaster steps in to relieve some of their concern. To honor their guests, the Tongans hold a big juggling festival. Girls of all ages are included. And the rules are simple. If you miss, you sit down. The last one still juggling is the winner. Some of the older girls juggle 4, 5, and even 6 tui-tui nuts. Tongan adults rarely juggle, but these school teachers show that they haven't lost their touch. And here, even the headmaster tries to get into the act. For a male Tongan, he sure wanted to get involved with the juggling. And he did.
Tonga isn't the only place with a tradition of juggling. Here in San Francisco, there is a more recent tradition established by street performers. Renowned for its freedom and alternative lifestyles, this city has a creative atmosphere that inspires the unusual. These two unlikely commuters are actually on their way to work. They are the Fly-By-Night Comedy Review, one of San Francisco's many street juggling acts. Street performing has become so popular in the city that a festival is held every year in its honor.
Shirley, that's a nice name. All right, Karen, you move right over here. Hands together, hands to the side, okay? Rob will hold up for you.
I'll hold this.
You got it?
Right? I got it.
Okay.
All right.
Done! It's a joke. Okay. Let me explain how this trick works, all right? There are going to be 6 Indian clubs passing in front of you. At the same time, they will also be passing in back of you.
So don't do this.
Okay?
Very important.
You got that. Just hold this loosely in the lips there. There you go. In the lips. There you go. Very good. Chin up. Okay, and all you have to do is stick your chin out. All right, here we go. And. Very good.
We're going to go a little bit faster here.
So you're doing great.
That's good. Stay
Doing
still.
good. Doing good.
Fantastic.
Great.
Take a bow.
Not yet.
No, stay still.
8, 9, 10.
In recent years, San Francisco and several other cities have provided special outdoor stages for street performers.
Off my elbow. Some of you caught on. Okay, I've got it now.
This enables the performers to concentrate on developing their acts rather than dealing with the hassles of the street.
These torches are burning at 450 degrees Fahrenheit, the boiling point of flesh. But do you think that scares us?
Do you think that scares us? He's burning.
Not bad. Yeah. Ready, Dave?
Ready, Sean.
That's it. Whoa. fiddle and the juggler, they played for the crowds, and all that saw them loved them, and all laughed so loud when the crowds finished laughing and then went away. The minstrel turned to the juggler, and these words he did say, "We've had our fun and giggles, and the people laughed along. We hope they keep on laughing when we're finished with this song, 'cause we all must laugh hysterically at the world we see, 'cause it really is much funnier than we imagine it to be. Yes, it really is much funnier than we imagine it to be."
These days, street performing is an accepted art form. It's kind of like vaudeville was in the early days, a place to get started, a place to perfect an act. But street performers haven't always had it so good. Back in the 70s, there was just a handful of us here in San Francisco. And for Lorena and me, it started right here in Union Square. With the kind of act that we did, anything could happen. That element of surprise is really what inspired us the most. Of course, street performing had its drawbacks. You never really knew when you were going to have a run-in with the law. One of San Francisco's first street jugglers, Ray Jason, had his share of problems with the authorities, too. The charge was always the same: blocking a public street or sidewalk.
Have you guys ever seen a weirder skill in your entire lives? Feel pretty strange, though. Let's go for 10 in a row now. We're at 6. 6. 7. 8. 9.
Jason's unique solution to the problems of street performing was to create his own portable stage, an antique flatbed truck.
Well, the wonderful thing about my truck is it allows me a degree of freedom that most of the street performers don't have, because I don't have to fight for stage time as much as everyone else. And freedom is very important to a sidewalk entertainer, because it's one of the main reasons that you get into it in the first place.
Now, don't throw it back.
Many street performers eventually go into the more standard forms of entertainment, like circuses or Las Vegas or Hollywood. I made a decision, quite a few years ago, that I wanted to really stay with the streets because I enjoy it immensely. I enjoy the naturalness, I enjoy the freedom, I enjoy the direct contact.
10 years after Jason's first street arrest, the mayor of San Francisco recognized his service to the city by proclaiming July 18th, 1981, Ray Jason Day. The Pickle Family Circus has provided its members with a performing space far from the noise and distractions of the city streets.
Many of the performers in the Pickle Family Circus got their beginnings or started off on the streets performing as jugglers and clowns and acrobats and that sort of thing. Peggy and myself began as street performers, performing an act not too unlike the one that we're performing in the circus today. For me, juggling is a vehicle for performing. In order for me to perform well, I have to be able to juggle well. It wouldn't be enough for me to go out there and keep 3 balls going and give a monologue. I have to be able to do something that's worth the attention of my audience. trying to do with the circus is not only have it be a vehicle for people to perform in, but we're also trying to put together a company. Anybody in the circus will tell you that there's an awful lot of work to be done on any show. This shared workload and shared joy within the performance can really be shown through the last act in our show, the Big Juggle. All the performers participate, whether they're a trapeze artist or a trampoline acrobat or a clown. And we are all working on this one skill that can, in a lot of ways, best demonstrate group work.
Barnett Felker found the biggest stage of all when he signed as an opening act for the Harlem Globetrotters. Performing solo in an arena this size presents a number of special challenges.
It's been a pretty major adjustment for me working with this show because there's no intimate audience contact. The closest people in the audience are 30 or 40 feet away, and everything's just got to be a lot bigger. It's definitely a challenge to project your personality to people who are so far away.
It doesn't matter how you get there if you don't know where you're going. Okay, straight in.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's a couple things you ought to know about this. One is that we're improvising, like musicians jamming. None of us has any idea what any of the others are going to throw.
For the flying Karamazov brothers, street performing has led to stardom on the Broadway stage.
How do they do it?
Their jazz routine brings a new level of improvisation, plus a little anarchy to group juggling.
Here you go, to me. Meltdown, meltdown!
Things like jazz come out of a basic pattern of one guy passing to the three guys, and that's the tune we're playing. But within that, we all have room to improvise.
Oh, should I go get that one?
The beat goes on, and we can hear it even when all the clubs but one are on the floor. The relationship between music and juggling, as the Karamazovs have always perceived it, is a very strong one. The way that juggling and music both happen as events versus time is a very clear relationship.
Rhythm explores the untapped musical possibilities of juggling.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
But there are other rewards for jugglers besides fame and applause. A practice session offers Kezia Tenenbaum and Peter Davison the simple pleasures of teamwork and relaxed movement.
Women have a
handicap with juggling in that their social upbringing has never been to work with sports. Just from the very beginning, they have that problem of needing to first learn how to catch a ball before they can even begin to understand the intricacies of juggling. I see juggling as a beautiful visual art, an art of motion.
Juggling, at least for me, is expressing yourself with dexterity in such a way that your personality comes out. You communicate certain things that aren't necessarily something that you could communicate with words.
Juggling has come a long way from the days when it was a closely guarded secret. Modern-day jugglers enjoy sharing their skills. It happens every weekend all around the country in public parks like this one.
These weekly gatherings are really special. It gives a chance for the jugglers to socialize and to practice together. And these people who come here make a point of teaching their skills to anybody who wants to learn.
Got it. Just take the balls, hold on. Just do 1, 2, get. 1, 2, get. Good. 1, 2, get. That's it. Now just control it. Keep it in here.
When I was in school, I used to do it all the time between studying because it helped me relax my mind, just get away from what I was doing, and come back to it refreshed.
Well, juggling to me is a kind of meditation. It involves the yin and yang principles, the creative and the mechanical. You use the left and the right side of your brain. And it's the beauty of the harmony of the whole thing that really makes it special to me.
I think it's fun. Sometimes boring.
I think what he's trying to say is that you can't really understand how to juggle until you try it yourself.
No.
Here we go. Ready? Watch me. 1, 2, 3. Right? 1, 2. Get that third one up there. There you go. That's it.
I didn't know so many people could juggle at one time.
No, I didn't know either.
How do we get in this?
I don't know, but I think we better get out of here.
I think we better
get out of here.
Better call the agent. I don't know. Get out of All these people share that special fascination with juggling. It's a kind of magic.
that delicate balance between the force of gravity and the skill of the juggler.
Even though juggling is a 4,000-year-old tradition, more people are juggling every day.
That's true. And who knows, with so many people learning, it may not be long before half the people in this country learn how to juggle.
Can you imagine if everybody juggled?
That would be great. I'd like that.
Yeah. You two showing us some juggling.
Hey, no.
It's easy. You just throw one, and then the next, and the next, and the next, and the next. It's really quite easy.
You're handing them to me. I think I'm going to give you do it.
Well, okay.
Oh, okay.
Is this like juggling scarves at all?
Same idea. Exactly.
Is it?
You really?
Okay. Okay. One after the other. One after another? Yeah.
Oh, no. I got an idea. Why don't we try it maybe 3 at a time?
Oh, teamwork.
Teamwork.
Good.
That would be good. Teamwork. I like teamwork. Ooh.
The minstrel and the juggler, they played for the crowd, and all that saw them loved them, and all laughed so loud when the crowds finished laughing and then went away. The minstrel turned to the juggler and these words he did say: "We've had our fun and giggles and the people laughed along. We hope they'll keep on laughing when we're finished with this song, 'cause we all must laugh hysterically at the world we see, because it really is much funnier than we imagine it to be. Yes, it really is much funnier than we imagine it to be." Now you might think it's crazy when we throw things in the air, and I admit it's tricky, takes lots of time and care, but the magic of the moment is quite a sight to see. A million smiling faces all juggling with glee, because it's lots of fun and happy and the people laugh along. And we'll know we'll keep on laughing when we're finished with this song, 'cause we all must laugh hysterically at the world we see, 'cause it really is much funnier than we imagine it to be. Yes, it really is much funnier than we imagine it to be.